Hello everyone and welcome to Jade Productions' review of Codex Imperial Knights, or Questor Imperialis if you want to be fancy about it. We'll jump straight in there, but this is going to be more of a discussion since I only just got this codex now. I've literally only just bought it from the e-store and downloaded it onto my iPad, so I've had very little time to look through it all, so this is going to be very fresh, and just have a little bit of patience with me on this one. So, we're jumping straight into it, looking at the knightly hosts and keywords. There's a couple of things to keep in mind here, and these mostly concern Questor allegiance and household. So, in the index, everything had the Questor Imperialis keyword. Now, that's been changed throughout this book to be Questor allegiance. So, and how this basically works in the wording is that when you go to pick your... When you build your army, you select either to exchange your Questor allegiance with either Imperialis or with Mechanicus. And this is how you determine what households you have access to, what relics, what things, what stratagems, so on and so forth. And then you have your households, which work just like the standard sort of chapter tactics, but they're, again, you know, everything, you know how that sort of works. Imperial Knights War Gear list is all the same stuff as it has been. I will draw attention to one thing though, because it is the very first thing that I looked up. Some of you may be wondering how Imperial Knights from Forge World, the Acatus Knights, the Ceratus Knights, the Questoris Knights, the, where's the other one? The other ones. You may be wondering how their keywords interact. Well, rules as written, all Forge World Imperial Knights are Questor Imperialis. If you choose to go Questor Mechanicus, then you cannot legally field these, from what I'm reading. Because the whole thing revolves around the Questor allegiance keyword. And it only says that all Imperial Knights in this book have Questor allegiance keyword, and when you include such a unit in your army, you must nominate whether the unit owes its allegiance to the Imperium or the Mechanicus. Then you replace the Questor allegiance keyword in every instance with the Questor Imperialis or Mechanicus. So, rules as written, you cannot use Forge World Knights with Mechanicus, which means you can't really use them in Mechanicus armies without having to take them as separate. It's not a huge deal, you can still take them in separate armies, but the fact that you cannot take them as, you know, Questor Mechanicus allegiance, so you can't affect them with Questor Mechanicus specific stuff, or make them Questor Mechanicus households, is a lot, if not very disappointing in my opinion. In my opinion, the Forge World Knights are vastly superior and far cooler, and they really, it disappoints me the lack of inclusion they get in terms of going with Mechanicus. But we'll cover them, I think. Since it's such a small army, we'll cover a little bit of the, in this review, the interaction between the Forge World Index and this book as well. So jumping straight into it, we have our two new units. Previously, the most overpriced pieces of garbage was the Omega Warglaive, which was essentially just a very shitty predator. That was woefully overpriced. Now the Omega Warglaive hasn't changed very much from its initial release. You'll be happy to know its stats are all the same. It has its offshoot, the Omega Helven, which instead of the Thermal Spear, which is the 30-inch melter, and the Reaper Chain Cleaver, the Helvern, as many of us suspected, has additional weapon options for heavy stubbers, or even you replace its two arms and it has Omega autocannons. These things are actually mighty impressive, to be honest, and I definitely suspect now that they're available, you'll be seeing more of the Helverns than you are Warglaives. Warglaives just don't have the number of shots necessary to bring down the target. If you're going to when the Warglaive first came out, the idea that I discussed with a bunch of people was that you have your Warglaives shoot at the tanks, and you have your standard big knights shoot at the infantry and the heavy infantry and the light infantry and the light vehicles. Now with the Helvern, you can do both, so you've got that variety there. I do think the Helvern is better, because the Armiger autocannon is 60-inch range. It's heavy 2d3, so on a disappointing roll, yes. But if you're not rolling like me, then you're going to get at least a half-decent number of shots. Hitting on 3s, strength 7, AP -1, 3 damage, and it ignores the penalty for hit rolls for moving and firing this heavy weapon. So you can just run around with it, spraying Armiger autocannon shots. And we know these are 3 damage autocannons, and we already know that autocannons are a very reliable and effective weapon in this edition. So I suspect you'll be seeing more Helvern. Helverns are going to be very good at picking off infantry, and the Warglaive, I don't know, the Warglaive has its use, but whether or not there is a real use for it in terms of your army, whether or not there's something you can't better spend your points on, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure yet. You've got the Knight Preceptor, alright? So this is a new version of the standard Imperial Knight, which has a new weapon, has the Las Impulsor, which it's a Las Impulsor, and it's a melee weapon. So the Las Impulsor itself is it's got 2 firing modes with low intensity and high intensity. Low intensity is 36 inches, heavy 2d6, strength 6, AP -2, d3. High intensity is 18 inches, heavy d6, 12, strength 12, AP -4, d6 damage. It's a good gun, but its range is limited. And I'm definitely going to say, well, to be honest, what it is, at the 36 range, it's the exact same loadout, almost the exact same loadout as a Wraith Knight's Star Cannon. Heavy 2d6 shots, strength 6. It's only got 1 worse AP, and it's only got 1, and it's got d3 damage instead of a fixed 2 damage. And you know what that signals in my brain? It signals it's a weaker version of a Wraith Knight, which means it's going to be good at picking off at that range heavy infantry, and not a lot else, because the Wraith Knight only gets effective with that weapon once you start to pile on the psychic powers and the buffs. And its high intensity, well, sure, they're going to get in within 18 inches eventually, I suppose, but at that point, the things you want to be killing with strength 12, AP -4, are probably not going to be near you, or if they are, they're very, very scary, and you should be running away. Your Knight Paladins, your Knight Errants, your Knight Gallants, your Wardens, your Crusaders are still the same. They all perform their various roles, the Crusader still being probably the best, since it packs the dual guns. The Rapid-Fire Battle Cannon is pretty good. The Avenger Gatling Cannon pretty much does a better job of what the Preceptor does. Because you look at the Preceptor gun, the Las Impulsor, and you look at the Avenger Gatling Cannon. The Avenger Gatling Cannon is the same thing, but with a more stable profile, being 36 inches heavy, 12, and 2 damage. So really, anything with, and of course the Warden, is the exact same loadout as the Preceptor, and with the Avenger Gatling Cannon and the melee weapon. So, is the Preceptor any good? I don't know. It's... So, you've got a new one. You've got your first named character for the army, which is Canis Rex and Sir Hector. This is rather amusing. So, Canis Rex drives the Preceptor, as we were just talking about before, with the Las Impulsor, the multi-laser, and a very special Thunderstrike Gauntlet called Freedom's Hand. And then when he's outside of it, he's got the Archaeotech Pistol. The Archaeotech Pistol is a 15-inch range pistol with strength 5, AP -2, 2 damage. Okay. So he's not useless, but he's kind of just funny gimmick there. Las Impulsor is, as I said before. The Freedom's Hand is impressive. in that it's, well, it's a Thunderstrike Gauntlet with the strength times 2, the AP minus 4, the 2d6 damage. When attacking with this weapon, you must subtract 1 from the hit rolls. Treat any damage rolls less than 6 made with this weapon as 6 instead. So it's a minimum 6 damage. Holy shit. If a vehicle or monster is slain by this weapon, you can pick an enemy unit within 9 inches of the bearer and roll a d6 on a 4-up base, suffer d3 mortal wounds. As you expect. Hey, it's a melee weapon that, for once, you probably might actually consider using instead of the standard Titanic feat. So his shields are the same, his rules are the same as every other Imperial Knight, except he has Sir Hector, so if Canis Rex is reduced to 0 wounds, but does not explode, you set up Sir Hector within 3 inches of it before Canis Rex is removed. He is treated as a passenger disembarking from a destroyed transport. Assuming he survives, Sir Hector, so you do have to roll the, d6, and on a roll of a 1, he will cark it. But assuming he survives, Sir Hector then uses his own profile above and his own keywords below and is armed with an Archaeotech pistol, and Canis Rex is not considered destroyed until you've killed Sir Hector. Neat. It's a funny little gimmick to piss people off in a very, Monster Mash army. Chainbreaker. Roll a d6 each time a friendly Imperial model flees whilst within 6 inches of Canis Rex. On a 6, that model does not flee. Okay. He's very inspiring. Then you've got the big bad bruisers on the block, which are essentially, looking at their stats and their guns, they are just Baneblades with legs. So you have the Knight Castellan, and you have the Knight Valiant. I'm assuming if you are watching this, you know about these guys already, and they're probably one of the main reasons you're curious about this codex starting this army. So they have ion shields. They have a bigger, nastier explosion. Holy crap. And then they both have Super Heavy Walker, which you know what Super Heavy Walker does, except the Super Heavy Walker here, in their profiles, actually has that they can move over swarms and infantry when they fall back, which is interesting. And this has been amended in all the other ones as well, so the cheap little trick of getting things like Nurglings to block Super Heavy Walker's retreat only applies to the sad factions like Eldar and Chaos and everyone else who's not an Imperium, because... oh, and Tau, because, F Xenos. If this model, so the dual plasma core explosion, if this model is reduced to 0 wounds, roll 2d6 before removing it from the battlefield. If you roll a 6 on either dice, it explodes, and each unit within 2d6 inches suffers d6 mortal wounds. If you roll a 6 on both dice, each unit within 3d6 suffers d6 mortal wounds instead. Well, take that Valiant and start ramming it down your opponent. Do it now. So we'll start with the Castellan. It's kind of what you would expect. It's movement 10 at its highest profile, then 7, then 4. It's weapon skill 4, then 5, then 6, so it's not really made for melee. The Castellan is a shooty version. And then its BS is 3, then 4, then 5, as you expect for an Imperial Knight. And it's strength 8, it's toughness 8, it's 28 wounds, it's 4 attacks, it's leadership 9, it's 3 plus save, and it's got that 5 up in vulnerable save against range attacks. It comes by standard, equipped with a Plasma Decimator, Volcano Lance, 2 Shield Breaker missiles, 2 Twin Melter Guns, 2 Twin Siege Breaker Cannons, and Titanic Feet. That's a lot of guns. Its Plasma Decimator is a plasma cannon with heavy 2d6 shots. So it's the 48 inches, strength 7, AP minus 3, 1 damage, and you can supercharge it for an additional strength and additional damage, but you suffer mortal wounds on hit rolls of 1. Alright, and then it's got its... I seem to have scrolled back by accident. Then you've got the Shield Breaker Missile, which is 48 inches, heavy 1, strength 10, AP minus 4, d6. Each Shield Breaker Missile can only be fired once, so you get 2 shots minimum. And, yeah. Each shield breaker missile can only be fired once per battle, and a model can only fire one each turn. Invulnerable saving throws cannot be made against wounds caused by this weapon. Holy shit. Something that ignores invulnerable saves but is not a mortal wound spam. It's good to see that GW haven't completely forgotten what life was like before you just did auto wounds to everything. Twin Siege Breaker Cannon, 48 inches, heavy 2d3, strength 7, AP -1, d3 damage. They are armature autocannons, basically. So, it has the firepower of an armature Hellvern. Neat. In addition to that, it's got a twin melter gun, 12-inch, assault 2, you know the rest about a melter, I'm assuming. Strength 8, AP -4, d6, roll 2 dice for winning for the damage, and it's got the lowest 1.5 range. The Volcano Cannon, holy shit. Remember when I said this thing was just a Bane Blade with legs? It really is. 80 inches, heavy d6, 14, strength 14, AP -5, 3d3 damage. You can re-roll failed wound rolls when targeting Titanic units with this weapon. It is essentially a Titan killer. Yeah. And then it's got its Titanic feet. Yeah. It's crazy. Then you've got the Knight Valiant, and I'm actually torn, like, off immediate reading, whether or not the Valiant is better than the Castellan, whether or not the Castellan is better than the Valiant. So far, I'm under the belief that if I was to field one of these, I think the more flexible and useful one would be the Knight Valiant. Especially since my opponent's probably going to spend a lot of firepower to bring it down anyway. Might as well send the Valiant up. But then again, the Valiant complements my armies more. If you have a very melee focused army, such as Space Wolves or even Blood Angels, if you've skewed any of your Imperial armies towards melee, I don't know why you would, then the Knight Castellan is probably the one for you. Or if you've opted for a shooting list or a parking lot, the Knight Castellan with a couple of its stratagems is also a very good choice for you. So the Castellan is definitely, they both fit, and they can complement depending on what your army build is, one of these two is for you. If you want to support your guys with some heavy firepower while they advance, Castellan. If you want to hold the line with your guys and just have a big parking lot of firepower, Knight Castellan. If you want to advance forward with your guys and deal some damage, Knight Valiant. If you want to throw the Knight Valiant up front to kind of buy your guys some time while they dig in and shoot, Knight Valiant. They both work. The Valiant has the same profile above. It comes with a Thunder Coil Harpoon, the most ridiculous gun in this game. The Conflagration Cannon, just a very good flamer. Twin Siege Breaker Cannons, Twin Melter Guns, and 4 Shield Breaker Missiles. So it gets 4 missiles instead of 2. There you go. So the Conflagration Cannon is 18 inches, heavy 3d6, strength 7, AP -2, 2 damage, hits automatically. It is a flamer almost on par with those on the Lord of Skulls. Hooray. Shield Breaker Missiles we discussed, Siege Breaker we've discussed, Twin Melter Gun we've discussed, Thunder Coil Harpoon. Oh, Jesus Christ. Emperor, save me. 12-inch range, heavy 1, strength 16, AP -6. That's ludicrous AP. Nothing in this game requires that much. I don't even know of any way to buff your armor to be that high, or so high that that is relevant. Titans don't even have that kind of armor class. Damage 10. Fixed 10. Great news. If you're Necrons, then congratulations, you just flat out ignore the damage from this with your shields. Congrats. You completely ignore this gun. For everyone else, you're shit out of luck. Pray you have a good invul save if this thing comes after you. Re-roll failed hit rolls when targeting vehicle or monster units with this weapon. Well, that's good. That's its only weakness, because it's practically always going to wound on a 2 or 3. And if it doesn't, you're going to be spending a command point to make sure it does. In addition, if this weapon inflicts any damage, the target unit suffers an additional D3 mortal wounds. Ah, Christ. So if it goes through, it's doing a minimum 11 damage. I hope that if you're fighting this thing, you have some way to ignore wounds, some sort of feel no pain equivalent. It's disgustingly resilient. That would be nice, because it's going to be your only goddamn chance. They're silly. Silly guns. Silly knights. Knights that weren't needed, but they're still really cool. I'll discuss more about my thoughts on Imperial Knights as a whole at the end of this. Then it's got the new Sacristan Forge Shrine. So it's a Sector Mechanicus structure. It's just, after it is set up, a Forge Shrine is treated as a Sector Mechanicus terrain feature. It cannot move for any reason. Blah, blah, blah. It's got all the rules for terrain. Infantry that are entirely within its structure receive bonus of cover. I suspect it just becomes terrain. But then it's got the ability to, at the end of your movement phase, one Imperial Knight vehicle, so all of them, from your army that is within 1 inch of this model can use the Forge Shrine's Auto Sacristan. If it does so, it cannot shoot or charge this turn, and its attack's characteristic is reduced to 1. Basically, you're docking it. But you can choose to resolve one of the following effects, and these are restore D3 lost wounds if there is a Tech Priest or Tech Marine from your army on the shrine, so on it, and they have not used their ability to repair another vehicle, they can add in the ritual of repairing instead. If they do so, you just regain 3 lost wounds. Neat. Funny little support structure. I like this, but it's ritual of reloading. If a vehicle is equipped with a Shield Breaker missile, it regains all Shield Breaker missiles it fired previously in the battle. If it is not, or if it has a full complement of Shield Breaker, choose one weapon the vehicle is equipped with, not an heirloom of a noble house. The next time it's fired, it always makes the maximum number of attacks. And then you've got the ritual of refueling until the end of the next movement phase. Increase the move characteristic of this vehicle by 6 inches. A vehicle only use the Auto Sacristan once per turn. I like this. It's a really cool touch. The first things that immediately spring to my mind when you're using this thing is that it can go very well with some Forge World Knights who have some ridiculous shooting. And you can just sort of, increase the effectiveness of their random shots. Oh boy. And 2, it acts as a lovely little platform. If you're going to take an Imperial Knight and use it to support your gun line, or if you're just going to use it to sit back, then you can just load it up with Siege Breaker missiles and pick the longest range guns with the best guns, and then you can just sit there with it in there the entire time, shooting until you run out of the Shield Breaker missiles, reload it, heal it when it gets damaged, keep a Tech Priest in there, obviously, so you can get the Auto 3 heal, and just have turn your Imperial Knight like Castellan, or any of your Imperial Knights that's not a Armiger, because it's wasted on them, their real power is their speed, and just turn them into a living, regenerating detachment. Fortification. Hi, caramba. These are, strange times. I remember when Knights were first released. Ah, joy. I'm looking at the art section, and they've got orcs being the punching bags to, Imperial Knights. Because, of course, orcs need to be the punching bags. Alright. Now we're into the Might of the Night World. So this is all your Battleforge stuff, your Free Blades, your Household Traditions, how this all works. This is the stuff you're primarily here for in this review, I'm guessing. So, if your army is Battleforged, you select one model in each Imperial Knight Super Heavy detachment in your army. Each model you select gains the character keyword. However, the command benefit of each Imperial Knight's Super Heavy detachment is changed to none, so +0 command points, unless it contains any combination of at least Questoris or Dominus class. So those are the standard Imperial Knights and the new big boys. Then you've got your household traditions. These are the standard, exchange your household for a household name and you get their tradition. And you've got free blades. Free blades, you can exchange the household for free blade. Free blade units in Imperial Knights detachment do not prevent other units in the detachment from gaining a household tradition. However, free blade units cannot themselves benefit from a household tradition. And of course, the household traditions are tied to whether or not you are Questor Mechanicus or Questor Imperialis. So, there is that to keep in mind. So, then you've got your Questor Imperialis. These are the Questor Imperialis. And I want you to note something. If you are aware of the Imperial Armor Forge World Imperial Knights, these are the only ones they can take. They cannot, as I stated at the very beginning, take Questor Mechanicus household traditions because Forge World is stupid and they need to do a fact, but Forge World lately has been the most ridiculous pile of stupidity I've ever seen. The Matt. Like, seriously, come on. Fires of Cyrax! Now, Questor Mechanicus, Questor Imperialis household traditions. We'll start with household traditions of Imperialis. God, I'm saying Questor. Too many words. House Terran. Gallant warriors. When determining the distance that a unit with this household tradition advances or charges, roll an additional d6 and discard the lowest result. How come Imperial Knights get Fleet of Foot and Eldar don't? That is my first thought. My second thought is, you kind of don't need that. House Griffith, Glory of the Charge. Add 1 to the attack's characteristic of a model with this household tradition. During any turn in which it charged, performed a heroic intervention. In addition, a model with this household tradition can perform heroic interventions as if it were a character. So, not only when you bring a detachment can you designate one of your knights to be a character, when you take this house tradition, they can all heroically intervene as if they're all characters. So, neat. I mean, it's the only character rule they technically benefit from, but it's just only one of them in this detachment will be able to take relics and warlord traits, but everyone else will at least be able to intervene, which is, I suppose, useful at least when you've got a very limited army that you almost want to bunch up together, because there's no reason not to. House Hawkshroud. Models with this tradition double the number of wounds they have remaining for the purposes of determining what characteristics you use on their damage table. That is an auto take. That is the one you're going to be taking. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. That is the one you're going to take. That is the best one there. Quickly looking at the other ones. Yes. That is the one you want. Why? It allows your Imperial Knights who have their main issue of the fact that they degrade, and a lot of the main issue with most super heavy walkers is that they degrade way too quickly because they just can't take the punishment. Everything deals way more damage this edition. They just lose their effectiveness and you can just near cripple them. This means, congratulations, your Imperial Knights stay at their effectiveness much, much, much longer. This is good news for every Imperial Knight, especially the Imperial Knights in the Forge World books, but since this is, okay, I'll finish before I go further into what I'm thinking here. Then you've got House Cadmus, reroll wound rolls of 1 in the fight phase for attacks made by models with this household tradition against units which only contain models with the wound characteristic of 12 or less. So, if you want to bully on things that are... So, reroll wound rolls of 1 in the fight phase against things that are predators or smaller. Pass. House Mortan. Add 1 to hit rolls in the fight phase for attacks made by a model with this household tradition during any turn in which it was charged, or performed a heroic intervention. I read that in the wrong order, sorry for the delay there. Yeah, I'm sorry, those are all trash. No thank you. I will take House Hawkshroud. House Hawkshroud is the only Questor Imperialis one that I immediately stand out as that is the best one. I haven't looked at their relics and warlord traits yet, but House Hawkshroud is definitely the best household tradition there if you're going with Imperialis. Lets your knights fight harder and longer. It's great for all your Imperial Knights. Your Dominus classes are going to be your Castellans, and your Valiants are going to be moving and firing with much more efficiency. They're not going to be degrading as your opponent brings to bear the full brunt of his firepower. Your Crusaders are going to have lots more turns of effective firepower. Your Acatus Knight Porphyron is not going to be going down in its wounds very fast. I mean, that thing has 30 wounds. I mean, it's not the best one, but you're going to be hitting a BS2 a lot longer, which is fantastic. You've got your Knight Acherons, which are going to be performing much better. They'll actually have a chance to, move fast enough with their 14 inches to get into range with their Acheron heavy flamers. The Knight Atropos, you're going to be able to take advantage of that great ballistic skill to use those one-shot or 4-shot minimum, very low shot, super, super powerful guns. Just not how Hawkshroud. God damn it. It's exactly what they needed, and it's the best one. It's not, unfortunately, it's the only one. Like, these are the only ones that the Forge World Knights can take, and that's really unfortunate, since the Forge World ones, despite being fluff-wise Mechanicus only knights, or Questor Mechanicus heavily used knights, can't take the Questor Mechanicus household traditions, which support shooting. The Questor household traditions for Imperialis, they are all about enhancing your melee, except for Hawkshroud. So I see most of your knights, you're going to be shooting with them because your guns are so goddamn good. So why would you go with anything else? Hawkshroud it is. Just Hawkshroud, baby. Mechanicus. I'm very, very annoyed that the Mechanicus ones, which makes sense, they're much more shooting focused. Your Forge World ones can't benefit from that, so if you want to run them with that, just forget about it. Take them as Free Blades or as Hawkshroud, and just suck it up. God damn it. I hate saying that when it comes to this game. I used to say that a lot in 7th edition. So you've got House Raven. Models with this household tradition do not suffer the penalties to their hit rolls for advancing and firing assault weapons. Furthermore, during a turn in which a unit with this household tradition advances, all of its heavy weapons are treated as assault weapons. Knight Valiant is the only thing I have to say to that. You can now move your Knight Valiant, and then advance with it, and you might actually be able to shoot with it. And then you're going to wreck face. Yes, that is fantastic. Immediately, the Questor Mechanicus one has me like... House Raven immediately has me as, this is good. This is a very good trait. It's very generic, but it's very, very good in this army. Hawkshroud is given it a good run for its money. House Tarnus. Roll a dice each time a model with this household tradition loses a wound, unless that wound is lost as a result of a mortal wound. On a 6, the wound being rolled for is not lost. So it gets a 6, I feel no pain against anything that's not a mortal wound. That's not quite as good as Hawkshroud. The ability to kind of just double the amount when you're counting it is kind of better, but, not losing your precious night wounds on a 6 is an okay trade-off. It's not the greatest, but it's an okay trade-off. Raven and Hawkshroud definitely still strike me as the number 1 best traits so far. House Crust. Reroll failed hit rolls in the fight phase for a model with this household tradition during any turn in which it was charged or performed a heroic intervention. In addition, you can reroll failed hit rolls in the fight phase for models with this household tradition against Titanic units. Pass. The Imperial Knight melee is not as good against Titanic units as it likes to think it is. Just shoot them off the table. House Volker. Firestorm Protocols. Reroll hit rolls of 1 for a model with this household tradition whenever you are resolving an attack with a ranged weapon that is targeting the closest enemy unit. Yeah, that one is definitely it. So there are 3 traditions that immediately stand out as they're the ones you want, and that is Hawk Shroud if you're going Imperialis. Don't bother with any of the others if you're going Imperialis. Or if you want to go Mechanicus, definitely go Raven or go Volker. Easy as that. Those are definitely the most standout trades. The rest are very meh. Stratagems. There's a lot of these. I am just gonna try and... Oh my god, there's a lot of these. I will try and run through them very quickly. I'm not going to go through them word for word. I will just sort of summarize them. You got the Ion Aegis, which you can choose which is 2 CP. You can choose a Dominus class, so Castellan or Valiant. And then if it can't move, but you give everything with the Imperium keyword a 5 of invulnerable save against ranged weapons within 6 inches of it. So you give a 6-inch invulnerable, 5 of invulnerable save bubbles. Noble Sacrifice, you can use it to make one of your Armiger or Questaris class models explode on a 4+. If it's a Dominus, you can make it explode on a 4+. If it is a Dominus class model, it explodes if either roll is a 4+. Yeah, so, yep. So make your guys explode on 4+. Not quite as good as auto explode, but then again, these guys deal a lot more damage than most things that can auto explode. Thunder Stomp, 1 CP. You let your... Use it immediately after one of your knights, Titanic Knights fights. You can choose an enemy infantry or swarm unit within 1 inches of that model. 4+, it takes D3 mortal wounds, so extra stomps. Okay, but on a 4+, I suppose it has its uses against things with invul saves and high armor. Sky Reaper Protocols, this is for armigers, it's 1 CP. It lets them shoot at things that have fly. No, it lets them re-roll against... lets them re-roll failed hit rolls with their autocannons against things that can fly. Neat. You've got Rotate Ion Shields, which costs 1 CP for anything that's not Dominus. It costs 3 CP for anything that is Dominus to get +1 to your invulns and save. It maxes out at 3+. You got your standard relic one, extra CP for extra relics. Got your Exalted Court, this is interesting, 1 to 3 CP. Use the stratagem before the battle after you have chosen your Warlord. Choose 1 Questoris class or Dominus class model from your army for 1 CP, or choose 2 such models for 3 CP. Each model you choose gains the character keyword, and you can choose an Imperial Knight Warlord trait for them. Holy shit. Depending on the Warlord traits, because I haven't looked through them, you can turn an entire detachment into characters and give them all Warlord traits. Sweet. Only one of them counts as your true Warlord, but still, neat. There is a stipulation that all the Warlord traits you give them must be different, however. And if randomly generated, you gotta re-roll the results. So, it's okay. It's okay in that respect, you can't double up on them, but then again, you probably don't want to. Probably best not to anyway. Depends on the Warlord traits, I haven't looked through them. Pack Hunters, 1 CP, you use this on your household armigers, Warglaves. Until the end of the phase, you can reroll failed charge rolls for friendly Warglaves whilst they're within 12 inches of that model. So you pick 1 Warglaive, and then all other Warglaves within 12 inches get to reroll charges within 12 inches of it. Neat. Oathbreaker Guidance System, 2 CP. Use the stratagem before choosing a target for a Shieldbreaker missile. In your shooting phase, that Shieldbreaker missile can target a character. Congratulations, you're just sniping out characters, ignoring their 4+ invul saves. The only thing that actually keeps them alive, besides from the character rules. Kudos. D6 damage, strength 10. Just done. Done. No character. You got a character there? Cute. That's funny. Dead. Support character over there that's essential to your army? Cool. You want to play Hero Hammer? No. Death Star? No. That's what that stratagem is. It's just a no button. You got 2 CP for full tilt. Use the stratagem in your charge phase. You choose an Imperial Knight from your army that advanced. That model can declare a charge even though it advanced. Yeah, I can see that being useful for some of the more melee-focused ones. Might actually make the one with 2 melee weapons useful. Definitely good on the Forge World Imperial Knights. I would do a whole separate video just on Forge World Imperial Knights and how they interact. But I don't think anyone wants that. If you do, leave a comment below and I will do that. Otherwise, I'll just keep this information to myself and you can figure it out yourself. Iron Hail Heavy Stubbers. Use this is 1 CP. Choose an Imperial Knights detachment from your army. The AP characteristic of all Heavy Stubbers in that detachment is changed to -1. Okay. You don't... Okay. 1 CP, Devastating Reach. In the charge phase, choose a Titanic Imperial Knight, so the largest ones. From your army that is not yet charged, then choose one enemy unit that is entirely on ruins or in a Sector Mechanicus structure. Okay, so what this one basically does is it lets you fight stuff that, you know, if your opponent is going to be a snazzy bastard and somewhat reasonable and hide his stuff inside buildings where you can't legally assault them because you can't enter a thing, you can use this CP, you can use this 1 CP stratagem to fight them when they're on higher levels in these buildings. So not even buildings and being on higher levels was going to keep you safe, because basically you're just going to whack the goddamn building. Yeah. If you end your charge move within 2 inches horizontally and 6 inches vertically of that enemy unit, the charge is successful and you can make your close combat attacks against them in the ensuing fight phase. Except, there is one stipulation. If you were thinking, you know, you can just charge in and feat them to death, it actually does say all hit rolls made using the Titanic feat automatically fail. So you are going to have to swipe with something else, and it's not really good on anything that doesn't have a melee weapon. Just little stipulations. Still an interesting thing. Good for getting around an obvious weakness of the Imperial Knights. 1 CP for Chain Sweep. You use a stratagem immediately after fighting with an Imperial Knight model. It's equipped with a Reaper Chainsword, Ravager, or Honor's Bite. Those are relics, by the sounds. You roll a d6 for each enemy model within 3 inches of that model. And on a 6, that enemy model suffers a mortal wound. Great if you're getting bogged down by swarms, I guess. Sort of. Make sure there's lots of things surrounding you. Charge yourself into a Tyranid or Conscript blob. That's great. Death Grip. This is funny. So, you use 1 CP and basically, immediately after you fight with an Imperial Knight that's got the Thunderstrike Gauntlet, the Paragon Gauntlet of Freedom's Hand, you resolve an additional attack against an enemy within 1 inches of your model. It's got to consist of a single enemy model, so it can't be a unit with lots of guys. If the attack hits, the enemy model suffers D3 mortal wounds instead of a normal damage, and it is caught in a death grip. Both players then just keep rolling off and add their respective model's strength characteristic to the result. If your opponent result equals or exceeds yours, the enemy model breaks free and nothing happens. Otherwise, so long as you keep winning, that enemy model just keeps on taking D3 mortal wounds, and both players just keep on rolling off. You just keep doing this until it's dead, or they somehow roll higher than your dice plus your strength modifier. I mean, you know, you're strength 7, 8 in most cases, so good luck to them. Bonded Oathsman. So, this is 1 CP. You use at the end of the enemy charge phase. You choose a household Questoris class or Dominus class from your army that's been charged. All friendly household Armigers within 6 inches of that unit can immediately perform a heroic intervention as if they were characters, and can move up to 6 inches when doing so. Neat. 2 CP, Valiant Last Stand. Use this stratagem when a Questor Imperialis model from your army is reduced to 0 wounds but did not explode. Remove it from the battlefield. That model, before you remove it from the battlefield, you can immediately shoot or fight with it as if it were those phases. When resolving these attacks, assume the model has 1 wound remaining to determine its characteristics. Again, one final FU button. I really like that's really cool and thematic. That's awesome. Sadly, you'd probably want to pop that in combination with some other ones to make that really effective. Benevolence of the Machine God. Man, this is that Valiant Last Stand was a Questor Imperialis stratagem. I almost got done in there. All the previous ones, except for the Iron Hail Heavy Stubber, was a Questor Imperial. So the Questor Imperialis was Iron Hail Heavy Stubbers, and the Valiant Last Stand. All the others that I've read so far have been standard Imperial Knights stratagems. Now they're trying to trick us because they're all out of order here. Benevolence of the Machine God is 1 CP for a Questor Mechanicus. So you use this stratagem when a Questor Mechanicus model from your army suffers a mortal wound. Congratulations, you get a 5-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds for the rest of that phase. 1 CP for Machine Spirit Resurgent, which is Questor Mechanicus. Use the stratagem at the start of any turn. You pick a Questor Mechanicus unit in your army. Until the end of the turn, you use its top row. It ends immediately if it's reduced to 0 wounds, obviously. Cognus Heavy Stubbers, another Questor Mechanicus one for 1 CP. This basically just lets your Questor Mechanicus fire your Heavy Stubbers as it turns them into Cognus Heavy Stubbers, basically, from the AdMech book. So you can fire the weapon even if you advance, but at -2. When firing Overwatch, the attacks are resolved at your ordinary ballistic skill. You can reroll failed hit rolls for this weapon if the bearer advanced this turn and has the Relentless Advanced Household Tradition, which is the House Raven one, or if the bearer is firing Overwatch and has the Firestorm Protocol Household Traditions, which is Volker. Sweet. It's very complex, but I suppose make the use of your Heavy Stubbers against hordes to Overwatch, I guess, and just keep piling on the shots. Sally Forth, 3 CP. This is a Questor Imperialis one. You send 1 Imperial. Okay. This lets you basically outflank a Imperial Questor Imperialis Questoris class. So your standard ones are an Armiger class and lets you outflank them. Simple as that. 3 CP to outflank a knight. Ooh, that could be scary. That certainly will give your opponent something to think of, but it's 3 CP. That's a lot of your CP as a knight player, because you're probably not going to get a lot since you're relying on the super heavy detachment. Slayers of Shadows. This is House Mortan. 1 CP, use a stratagem in the shooting phase before your House Mortan unit shoots. Till the end of the phase, you ignore all modifiers when making your attacks, positive and negative. Sweet. So just all those armies that rely on positive and negative modifiers to stay alive? Nope. This is almost as bad as Deathwatch Codex, which was just nope buttons all over the place. This is no, you cannot avoid our scary guns. Whereas in the Deathwatch Codex, it was no, you cannot get your special trick. 3 CP, Glory in Honor, House Terran. Use a stratagem to fight again. 3 CP to fight again, but it's exclusive to House Terran. 2 CP for Order of Companions. Wow, it's got a huge fluff section on this stratagem. Use a stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Pick a House Raven. It is House Raven exclusive. Until the end of the phase, you can re-roll all rolls of 1 for that model, including hit rolls, wound rolls, damage rolls, and rolls to determine the number of shots. Holy shit. That's awesome and good. Controlled Aggression. This is for House Crust. Use a stratagem in the fight phase. Before choosing a House Crust unit to fight with, until the end of the phase, each unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 2 hits instead of 1, or 3 hits instead of 1 if the target is a Chaos unit. Congratulations, 1 CP to give your Knights Tesla. Model cannot be affected by the controlled aggression stratagem and the Thunderstomp, Death Grip, or Chain Sweep stratagem in the same turn. So you can't pile on those, sadly. Which is rather annoying for what is clearly a melee-focused house. 2CP, Our Darkest Hour. If you really, really want to go heavy on the Transformer references. For 2CP, House Tarnus. Use a stratagem when one of your House Tarnus models is reduced to 0 wounds but did not explode. Roll a d6. On a 4-up, set that model up again at the end of the phase as close as possible to the previous position with more than 1 inch away from an enemy unit with d3 wounds remaining. Resurrecting Knights. Because Knights needed to be better on top of their ridiculous armor, wounds, and fracking guns. Just... ay, caramba. Okay. Carrying on, recomposing ourselves. 1 CP for Saturation Bombardment. This is for House Volker. Use a stratagem when you choose a House Volker unit to shoot in your shooting phase. Until the end of the phase, each unmodified hit roll of 6 with that model shooting attack scores 2 hits instead of 1. So Tesla for your guns if you're House Volker. House Volker is awesome. Holy shit. The Mechanicus ones are so much better, unless you're going Hawkshroud. The Hawkshroud one is the last one. Dragon Slayer, House Griffith. Use a stratagem before a House Griffith model in your army makes an attack in the shooting or fight phase. Add 1 to its wound rolls. Made for that unit, for that model's attacks. Hang on. Dragon Slayer, 2 CP. Use a stratagem before a House Griffith model from your army makes its attacks in the shooting or fight phase. Until the end of the phase, add 1 to wound rolls made for that model's attacks against units containing models with a wound characteristic of 10 or more. Okay, that took me a bit. That's basically for killing big things. Biosquire Cogitator Array. Oh man, that sounds awesome. I want one. This is for House Cadmus. It's 3 CP. Use this stratagem immediately after your opponent sets up a unit on the battlefield. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, jeez. Okay, so this is 3 CP that when someone deep strikes something near you within 12 inches, you can immediately shoot it with one of your House Cadmus, models. And you don't suffer any penalties. You just shoot it as if it was a shooting phase. I'm not sure if I'm conveying how ridiculous I think this codex is. It's super fun. Thank goodness Knights are ridiculous. Well, actually, I can't say that anymore. Because Knights are now only 250 so points for the standard Questoris. So, this is starting to get a little bit ridiculous. I'm starting to feel that this codex is just starting to get a little bit ridiculous. Thank goodness these models are expensive is all I can say. Otherwise, I can already see my local meta changing to be everyone has Knights. 2 CP, Staunch Allies. This is Hawkshroud. Use a stratagem immediately after an enemy unit declares a charge against an Imperium unit from your army. Choose a friendly House Hawkshroud model that is more than 1 inch away and within 12 inches of the unit that is the target of the charge. The model fires Overwatch at the charging unit as if it were charging itself. Furthermore, if the resulting charge is successful, that model can perform a heroic intervention against the unit that charged. Oh man. As if it were a character. If it does so, it can move up to 2d6. So basically just going to make a charge. But must end its move close. Okay, wow. So, not only do you get to steal the Tau, for 2 CP, you get to steal the Tau shtick, and you also get to try and charge the thing that you just overwatched. Sweet. Sweet, sweet. So, with that stratagem, and reading all these stratagems of mine, the first things that spring to my mind immediately are that, immediately, as I said before, House Hawkshroud, House House Raven and House Volker are definitely the best houses. House Hawkshroud is definitely one that is amazing and you're probably going to be seeing a bit. We'll quickly run through these Warlord traits. You got Cunning Commander. This is your standard, once per battle you can reroll 1 hit, wound, or damage, or saving throw for your Warlord. In addition, if your army is battle forged, you get an extra command point. Not quite as good as command point recycling, but who cares, it's an extra command point. Iron Bulwark. Your Warlord has a 4+ invulnerable save against ranged weapons. Sweet, so if you Ion rotate, you get a 3-up invul save. Knight Seneschal, you add 1 to their attacks characteristic. Land Strider, you add 2 to their advance and charge rolls. For friendly household units within 6 inches of your Warlord. Definitely good if you want to go stabby. Blessed by the Sacristans. Choose 1 weapon that's not a relic that your Warlord is equipped with. Each time you make an unmodified wound roll of a 6, that target suffers a mortal wound in addition to your normal damage. That's awesome. Fearsome Reputation. Enemy units subtract 1 from their leadership characteristic whilst they are within 12 inches of your Warlord. Whilst they're within 6 inches of your Warlord, they subtract 2 from their leadership. Alright, the most immediate standout ones there of the generic Warlord traits are Cunning Commander for that extra CP, because extra CP is always great, especially when you have fantastic stratagems. Iron Bulwark for that 4-up invulnerable save, invulnerable saves on big, heavy knights. Just invulnerable saves in general. Get them good. And then Blessed by the Sacristans could be good. It's pretty good. Then you got your household traits. Okay. These aren't in any... okay, they are in order, so going down, these are in the same order as they are earlier with how they're listed by Imperialis and Mechanicus. So, Terran, House Terran, you can reroll failed charge rolls for your Warlord. Griffith, you immediately after your Warlord completes a charge, choose 1 enemy unit within 1 inch and roll a d6, and on 4+, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. You get a crushing charge. Hawkshroud, Duty of the Forsworn. At the start of the first battle round, but before the first turn begins, select 1 unit in your opponent's army, add 1 to hit rolls for your Warlord, made for your Warlord against that unit. Sweet. Pick their super heavy, and have your just Knight Dominus go, no. Cadmus. Reduce all damage suffered by your Warlord in the fight phase by 1 to a minimum 1. That would be good, but it's only the fight phase, so that sucks. But the fluff behind it is pretty cool. Legacy of the Black Fall for Mortan. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target your Warlord at a range of more than 18 inches. At least it's only your Warlord. At least it's only your Warlord. I'm fine with this. It's okay. It's okay. I'm overreacting a little bit. -1s are fine in moderation. It's when you... and they're fine across the board. It's when you start to stack them, or when you're playing orcs, that they become ridiculously stupid. So, it's okay. It's actually a very good Warlord trait right there. You've got House Raven. You add 1 to your saving throws made for your Warlord against attacks that have an AP characteristic of -1. So, and it doesn't affect your invulnerable saves. There's a stipulation there. So, basically, you ignore AP -1. Okay. Tyrannus? Tarnus? I've been saying Tarnus, but it's Tyrannus by the looks. Each time you make a wound roll of 6+ for your Warlord in the shooting phase, the AP characteristic of that attack is improved by 1. That's delicious. Holy shit. Again, my first thought to go straight to those Dominus classes. But then again, that's painting a very big target. But, yeah, if you're going to go big or go home with this codex, I think is the general point it's making. Krast is reroll hit rolls of 1 for your Warlord, just in general. And Volker. Wound rolls of 1, 2, or 3 made for attacks against your Warlord always fail. even if the attack has a strength characteristic higher than your warlord's toughness characteristic. They can only ever wound your warlord on a 4+. Holy shit! That's awesome! Oh man, if I wasn't... Oh man. The Mechanicus are so... The Mechanicus traditions and all the Mechanicus households are so awesome. But I can't use the knights I want because Forge World are dickheads. Pardon my language. Forge World, put out an FAQ. Change your keywords. Errata that shit. It's ridiculous. Then again, at least I can take them as Hawkshroud. And Hawkshroud, so far, from everything I've read and told you guys, is probably the best one to take as an ally force, to be honest. Since most of their stuff, their exclusive stuff, benefits other Imperial stuff. Heirlooms of the noble houses. These are your relics. How are we doing for time? We've gone over time a little bit, so I'm gonna have to hurry this up. We've got Sanctuary, which gives a 5+ invulnerable save for ranged and melee. You got the Ravager, which you saw in chapter approved. Fancy, chain... What are they called? It's a fancy, Reaper chainsword. You've got the Paragon Gauntlet, model with the Thunder Strike Gauntlet. It's strength ×2, AP -4, damage 8, because frack it, why not? If a vehicle or monster is slain by this, you get to throw it, so it's just a damage 8 gauntlet. Holy shit. Armor of the Sainted Iron. The Wearer's Knight has a save characteristic 2+. Cool. Endless Fury. This replaces one of your Avenger Gatling cannons. The Avenger Gatling, it gets 36 range, heavy 14, so it gets 2 extra shots. Each unmodified, it's got the same damage, AP, and strength. Each unmodified hit roll of a 6 with this weapon scores 2 hits instead of 1. That's awesome. No reason not to take that. Model... then you've got Judgment, model with a Storm Spear rocket pod only. It becomes a 60-inch, heavy 3, strength 8, AP -3, D6, and you can reroll failed hit rolls for this weapon. Cool. Sky Shield, model with a twin Icarus autocannon only. It becomes a 60-inch, heavy 6, strength 7, AP -2, 2 damage. Add 1 to the hit rolls for this weapon made against fly, subtract for fly. So I don't know what that actually does compared to the standard profile. Just give me a moment, I'll find that quickly out. So you've got the standard Icarus autocannon. Okay, so it's more shots. It's more shots and more AP. That's what it does over a regular Icarus autocannon. Probably give that one a hard pass. Don't really, feel the need to do that, but hey. Helm of the Nameless Warrior. This is for Questor Imperialis only. Add 1 to hit rolls made for the wearer in the fight phase. Banner of Macarius Triumphant. Yay! Lord Macarius. Single greatest asshole ever in the Imperium's history outside of the Horus Heresy. Although there are many who could compete for that. It's up for debate. Questor Imperialis, Questoris class only. So your standard guys. Add 1 to the leadership characteristic of friendly Imperial Knights within 6 inches of the bearer. In addition, if the bearer is within range of an objective marker, it controls the objective marker even if there are more enemy models within range of the same objective marker. If an enemy unit within range of the same objective marker has the similar ability, then the objective marker is controlled by the player who has the most models within range. In this case, however, the bearer counts as 10 models. That is actually one of the only ways to get objectives secured in this codex. Because you do not have any objective secured in this. You're sacrificing the ability to secure objectives for just balls out your ability and firepower. Just bury them in dice. Make orcs blush with the amount of Daka you have. Traitor's Pyre, Questor Imperialis model only, with a conflagration cannon, so in other words, only a Knight Valiant with Questor Imperialis. Oh, okay. It's the same stats. You just re-roll failed wound rolls for this weapon! Holy shit, that's awesome. I want a Knight Valiant. I hate Imperial Knights. This codex is making me slowly love Imperial Knights. Mostly because I've only ever fought against them. I've never had a real chance to play with one. And that was only in 7th edition when they were completely stupid. Jeez, there are 3 pages of relics here. Oh boy. Mark of the Omnissiah, Questor Mechanicus only. Roll a d6 at the start of your turn. On a 6, the bearer regains d3 lost wounds. On any other result, it regains 1 lost wound. Sweet. I mean, at least you're getting wounds back. The Mechanicus, all about those heals. The Helm of the Dominatus, this is for Questor Mechanicus household Questoris class or Dominus class only. Once per battle at the start of either your shooting or fight phase, you can choose a unit from your opponent's army that is within 24 inches of the bearer until the end of the phase. Add 1 to all hit rolls for attacks made by household Armiger models. Sweet, okay. That's pretty cool. Cole's Wrath. Here we go. Something named after our Tech Gilman. Questor Mechanicus model with a Plasma Decimator only. I wonder what possibly that could go on. Basically, it's the same profile, except it's Strength 8, AP 4, 2 damage, as standard, and when you overcharge it, it's Strength 9, AP 4, 3 damage. When attacking with this weapon, you choose one of the profiles, and supercharged, you still do mortal wounds to yourself. But you only... Okay, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so exactly. So it's a stronger plasma cannon. Thunder of Volturus. This is for House Terran only, so we moved into the House exclusive ones now. It's for a rapid fire battle cannon. Makes your rapid fire battle cannon strength 9, AP -2, and when determining how many shots, you roll 3d6 and discard the lowest result. Sweet. House Griffith. They get the Mark of the Lance. Each time the bearer completes a charge move, choose an enemy unit within 1 inch of it and roll a d6. On a 2+, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, it suffers 3 mortal wounds instead. Meh. Angel's Grace. This is for Hawkshroud. Roll a d6 each time the bearer suffers a mortal wound in your opponent's psychic phase. On a 4+, the wound being rolled for is not lost. 4 up to ignore mortal wounds in the psychic phase. Sweet. Hawkshroud is awesome. You're gonna go Hawkshroud if you go in Imperialis, I reckon. There's the other ones, they have their cool little gimmicks, but I don't think they're worth it compared to the bonus of Hawkshroud's tradition. I'm sorry, I just... the Hunter's Eye. House Cadmus model only. Enemy units do not receive the bonus to their saving throws for cover against the bearer's ranged attacks. Honor's Bite. This is a House Mortan model with a Reaper Chainsword only. It's a Strength +6, AP -4, damage 6. Each wound roll of 6 made with this weapon inflicts d3 mortal wounds in addition to normal damage. The Banner Inviolate. Okay. House Raven Questoris class. Reroll hit rolls of 1 in the 5 phase for House Raven models while stay within 6 inches of the bearer. Fury of Mars for House Tyrannus. Thermal cannon only. Thermal cannon, you roll 48 inch heavy d6. That's what it is. Strength 9, AP -4, d6. D6 damage. Okay. The Headsman Mark, House Crast model only. Increase the damage characteristic of the bearer's weapons by 1 for attacks made against enemies containing models with wounds characteristic of 10 or more. Increase damage characteristic by 2 for attacks made against Titanic units. Holy shit. The Auric Mask, House Volker, the opposing player. Okay. They've got to roll 2d6 and take the highest result when they do morale tests within 12 inches of the model with it. Okay. And then finally we have free blades. Okay, the free blades, I'll say this. They are awesome. They are absolutely, fundamentally awesome. So, if your armor is battle forged, but it gets a little complicated here, so I'll have to go through this. We've gone way over time, and I'm so sorry for this, but it's actually they packed a lot into this codex. If your armor is battle forged, then before the battle, you can give one free blade model in your detachment qualities and burdens. To do so, first either choose a single quality from the table below, or roll 2d6 to randomly generate 2 qualities. Duplicates have no effect. If your battle forged army includes Canis Rex, both Canis Rex and Sir Hector have legendary hero and the last of their line qualities, so they have set qualities. After determining the model's qualities, you must then either choose 2 different burdens from the table below, or roll 1d6 to randomly generate a burden. If your battle forged army includes Canis Rex, both Canis Rex and Sir Hector have the Obsessed and the Vengeance burden. If a free blade from your army has any burdens, roll 2d6 for them at the start of each of your turns, subtracting 1 from the result if the free blade has the Exiled and Shame burden. If the result is less than the free blade's leadership characteristic, which leadership 9, their burdens do not apply. If the result equals or exceeds their leadership characteristic, then their burdens apply until the start of your next turn. So, to sum that up, in case you didn't quite get that, you have a table for qualities and a table for burdens. You can pick or roll. If you pick, you get to pick 1 quality, but then you have to pick 2 burdens. If you roll, you get to roll for 2. You get to roll 2 dice, and possibly get 2 qualities, but you might get doubles and get only 1 quality. But you only have to roll 1 dice for your burden. So picking gives you more burdens, forces you to take more burdens, but rolling has that element of, that element of randomness. Qualities, last of their line. We roll hit rolls of 1 for the free blade against attacks against units containing 10 or more models. Sworn to a quest. Reroll hit rolls of 1 for this free blade when it targets the enemy warlord. If this free blade is within range of an objective marker as specified in the mission, it controls the objective marker even if there are more. So this gives it objective secured, but it doesn't give it the counts as 10 models. It's the only other way to get objective secured in this codex. Mysterious Guardian. The free blade can perform heroic interventions as if it were a character. It can do so if any enemy units are within 6 inches of it at the end of the charge phase and can move up to 6 inches when doing so. Peerless Warrior. When this quality is chosen or generated, roll a d6. On a 1 to 3, add 2 inches to the free blade's move characteristic. On a 4 to 5, improve his weapon skill by 1 to 2+. Or on a 6, improve its ballistic skill characteristic by 1 to 2+. That's probably the best one. Yeah. It's probably the best one so far. But you've also got Indomitable. Add 1 to the free blade's wound and leadership characteristics. The fact that you can make the Forge World Knights free blades equals some crazy shit here. Legendary hero. Tales of this free blade. Once per battle, you can reroll a single hit roll, wound roll, or damage roll, charge roll, or saving roll for this free blade. Sweet, there's some cool stuff there. Peerless Warrior, Indomitable, Legendary Hero strike me as the best ones. Those are the ones I would want to roll. Which ones I would pick? I'd probably pick either Peerless Warrior or Indomitable. The burdens, Exiled in Shame. Whilst this burden applies, the free blade cannot be affected by any stratagems. This includes the using of command reroll stratagems to reroll dice for this free blade. Ouch. You gotta remember, these only take effect if you fail like a Leadership 9 test, though. So, you're not gonna be failing them too often, maybe once per game. If you're unlucky. Or if someone stacks on some leadership negatives, now that I think about it. Ooh, beware Night Lords. Beware Night Lords if you're gonna bring a free blade and you gonna take 2 of these. Wearing Machine Spirit. Whilst this burden applies, halve the number of wounds the free blade has remaining for the purposes of determining what characteristics to use on the damage table. So the opposite of Hawk Shroud. That is one you definitely do not want. Haunted by Failure. While this burden applies, reroll hit rolls of 6 for the free blade. Ouch. Not as bad. Obsessed with Vengeance. When this burden applies, the free blade can only target the nearest enemy unit that is visible to it in the shooting phase, and it can only declare a charge against the nearest enemy unit in the charge phase. Driven to Slaughter. That was actually not bad, the Obsessed with Vengeance. Driven to Slaughter. When this burden applies, the free blade cannot fall back, and its ballistic skill characteristic is changed to a 6+. That's bad, you don't want that. You need your knight shooting. Unless you're fielding a choppy knight, in which case you're probably doing knights wrong, but that's a discussion for another time. Play how you like, I'm not the boss of you. Impetus Nature. Whilst this burden applies, every move that the free blade makes must take it closer to the nearest enemy model, unless it is already within 1 inches of an enemy model. It must declare a charge against every enemy unit whilst it's within 12 inches... against every enemy unit within 12 inches of it in your charge phase. I'm losing my words a little bit there. So, the burdens are bad, and unless your opponent is... fielding lots of morale and leadership debuffs and getting really close to use them, you're probably not going to have to worry about your burdens too much. I really like free blades a lot, actually. I'm thinking free blades are probably the best way to take Imperial Knights from Forge World as allies without having to take them as Imperialis. Now, I say that, but we've already discussed that Hawk Shroud is the best. So, either way, you're not going to get what you want, and that's the Mechanicus, Questor Mechanicus keywords and the Questor Mechanicus traits. So, you're going to have to make do if you have Forge World Knights. But, for everything else, the Mechanicus Knights work really well. I will give a little discussion to, I'll give a very, very, very quick discussion, since we've gone way over time by almost 20 minutes, about the points costs. Just to let you kind of get a general idea. Helverns cost 170 base. Their autocannons cost 0 points. The Warglaive is 160 points base. They're much more reasonably priced now. Although I feel like the Armiger autocannon is a little bit underpriced for how good it is. But, there we go. The Armiger Warglaive, 160. Let's see. Its Thermal Spear is 0 points. Its Reaper Chain Cleaver is 0 points, so it's just 160 points unless you choose to slap a melter gun on it. Heavy Stubber is, like, negligible. Heavy Stubber is 4 points. So, there you go. They are really, really cheap, so you can field cheap disposable things. I mean, they're still expensive for what you're getting. The Helvern is definitely the better option in terms of your points efficiency, though, based on its weapon loadout. The Knight Castellan is 510 points naked. It's 510 points, and then it's got the Plasma Decimator, which is 0 points, and the Volcano Lance, which is 0 points. The Twin Siegebreaker Cannons that it has, it's got 2 of those. They're 35 points a pop. And then the, where are they? The Shieldbreaker Missiles are 12 points a pop. Wow, those things are stupidly cheap. Those points should be reversed. So, it's 510 points. That's minimum. Even with its basic gun loadout. That's what it should cost. That is what it should cost. So, that's a decent cost. That is a decent cost. For something that can reliably take on a Primarch and win, that is a very good cost. The Knight Valiant is slightly cheaper at 500 points. At 500 points, it's got the Twin Siegebreaker Cannon. It's only got 1, so it's 35, so 535 points right there. It's got 4 of those Shieldbreaker missiles, so 12 points apiece. So there you go. You've got yourself past 550, heading into 570. The Thunder Coil Harpoon is 0 points. And let me guess. I'm going to take a real stab here and say that the Conflagration Cannon is 0 points. So, what you're getting is reasonably costed there. That's fine. For stuff that is that huge and effective, oh boy. But, we have the regular Knights. The regular Knights have the same sort of effectiveness as things like a Wraith Knight or a Riptide. The Imperial Knight, because the Imperium must always be better, is now substantially cheaper than all of those combined. So more effective and cheaper. Insult to injury to Xenos. They are almost 285 points across the board, with the exception of the brand new one, the Knight Preceptor, which is 385 points. But at least their war gear actually costs points. And there has been some reductions. But overall, your Questor got cheaper, your Armigers got reasonable, and your new Dominus class are points accordingly. It's almost like they decided we'll just put the points cost of your giant-ass guns into your model, so that maybe you'll buy them all. And then 80 points for the Sacristan Forge Shrine. Pay it now. I think the Forge Shrine is actually a really cool thing. It will limit your mobility, but if you're not concerned about that, definitely worth the investment to help keep your knights alive. It's only 80 points in an army, where on average it's your cheapest thing in this book, for crying out loud. Canis Rex, your newly named character, including all of his war gear, is about 450. By the time you stack on the war gear onto your knights, they are 285. They are really cheap. They do start to equal near what the Wraith Knight is, though. So that inequity I was talking about before, because I do remember it now. I've actually brought up my points cost. It's not that much of disparity. It's just, they're just so much more effective. And that's mostly just because they've got an entire book dedicated to them. What can you do? On average, they end up being close 300 points plus. So your knights are now interesting. The knights as a codex are a really interesting thing. When knights were first released, they were released as a single one-off support unit in the form of the original Questoris class. And the Questoris class was something that you basically took if you were looking for something that was cheaper or had a slightly different loadout to a Baneblade. if you didn't quite want a Baneblade, or you're looking for something to support your Imperial forces that didn't have a Lord of War available to them on that level. Because in 7th edition they started to relegate all sorts of weird ass shit to the Lord of War slot, and then they stopped that, thank goodness. And it was really a one-off auxiliary unit that occasionally you'd see one on the field. You know, supporting a detachment of Space Marines or Sisters of Battle or AdMech and so on and so forth. Now, then it became its own codex, and it was a codex literally made of nothing but some warlord traits and, well, the standard Imperial Knights. And it was complete and utter frackin' joke. Complete joke. Knights as a codex were a complete joke in 7th edition. I will be honest, I think they were completely stupid. They didn't need a codex. They had one, they didn't need it. It was just Games Workshop going through their phase where everything had to have a codex. Now, that codex was completely redundant and stupid. And then the new edition came along, and they kind of returned to that role. They were a support thing, but you could field them in an army, and they were much more reasonable to do so this edition. Now, GW have taken a faction that really only had, once upon a time, one model kit that maybe made 6 different variants of the same model. And they've added 3 new kits to it, a character, and they've really fleshed them out to be much more of a, less of an auxiliary unit, and now they're a full-fledged army. And I think because of that, my hatred towards them has dissipated. I really think this Knight Codex is actually really, really cool and really, really good. It's very good for a romp. I wouldn't want to play against it, someone fielding an entire army, but at the same time, I would really like to fight against it. Preferably with my own knights or something just as big, because they are just so cool. Yeah. It's very interesting. The only thing that is disappointing me with this codex is the interaction between Games Workshop's codex and the Imperial Knights from Forge World. But Forge World recently has been pissing me off in general, which is not a discussion for this video. So, I could probably keep banging on about this codex if I just kept talking about the different aspects and different things you could do with this. But I've already gone way over time on this new codex. I had to run through the new stuff to give you guys an idea. I could go more into tactics and some good army plans, but I just don't have time. So, thank you very much for listening and watching and checking out this Imperial Knights review, or Questor Imperialis, if you want to be fancy. And do me a favor, instead of liking and subscribing, write an email to Forge World, a very angry email. Tell them to hurry up and publish Fires of Cyrax, and then tell them to errata the Imperial Knights in their index. Do that instead of liking and subscribing. Do that. I've been Jay from Jade Productions. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we finally get around to the long-awaited Orcs or Space Wolves, who are well and truly overdue for their codexes. They better be good. Orcs need an entire rework as a faction. Cheerio.